What are the big historical issues of modern Latin America? Race, secularization, economic inequality. Those are the big three. I will be talking about these for 4 separate talks. This video is part 1. So, race, secularization, and economic inequality. All 3 issues have their roots in medieval and early modern Europe. They have everything to do with Europe's many complex responses to non-Christian, pagan, indigenous societies, both in the Americas and in Africa. Race, secularization, and economic inequality are almost inextricably interrelated, but I will attempt to explain them somewhat individually anyway. The first thing to do in any historical analysis is to figure out where we are in time, right? So let's start with that. When did modern Latin America begin? Modern Latin America began at the junction between Spanish monarchical rule and self-rule. This change took place over 15 years, beginning in 1810 and winding down in 1825. It began with the founding of the first self-governing committee, a junta, on South American soil. It happened almost simultaneously in 2 places, in Chuquisaca, now known as Sucre in Bolivia, and in Quito, in what is now known as Ecuador. But those initial steps towards self-government had little to do with seeking generalized liberty or idealizing political freedom. They did have everything to do with what was going on in Europe in the very early 19th century. So what was going on in Europe that affected Latin America? In the year 1809, the first 2 South American self-governing juntas were formed. They were set up in response to political chaos trickling from Spain, over 5,000 miles away, to its American colonies. That chaos was caused by Napoleon of the French invasion fame. Napoleon Bonaparte was taking over Europe, but more specifically Spain. Napoleon actually had Frenchified Spanish supporters, but those loyal to the King of Spain, who, by the way, was also French by family, resisted Napoleon and set up juntas, self-governing committees, with intent on keeping Spain under King Fernando VII. The initial juntas set up in South America were of similar vein, copycats even, of the Spanish self-governing juntas. But the Spanish juntas did not see the South American juntas as legitimate. They were seen as signs of rebellion against Spain and were fought, suppressed, shut down. To politically volatile Spain, Latin America needed to remain securely under the Spanish monarchy. No self-made committees allowed. So, European imperialist attitudes led to the wars of independence in Latin America. Such overt and belittling suppression was the initial catalyst to actual bold-faced rebellion against European rule. Civil wars between the Spanish crown royalists and those seeking to cut off from Spain completely then began across the Spanish Empire. In New Spain, which is now Mexico, and in Central America, in Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, in Peru and Chile, in Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Argentina, in Cuba and Spanish Haiti, which is now known as the Dominican Republic. In the end, after 15 long years of civil wars, a new self-governing Latin America emerged, economically devastated by war and with monumental, incredibly modern issues to work out. Issues still on the political and societal fronts of today across all the Americas, not just Latin America, from Cape Horn in southern Chile to northernmost Alaska in the United States.